Hey there, Hoops Tragics! Before we kick off this episode of Aussie Hoopla, be sure to check out our exclusive range of NBL and NBA t-shirts on our website, AussieHoopla.com. Buying a t-shirt helps us cover our website and podcasting costs and continue to promote Aussie Hoops. Now, let's kick off this episode by bringing on the host of Aussie Hoopla, Dan Boyce.
The Minnesota Timberwolves select Luke Longley from the University of New Mexico.
And the Tigers, for the first time in history, have won the NBL title. Look at the Gaze family, Lindsay and Andrew. Andrew just tears streaming down their face.
Now Barkley and Shane Heal at midcourt have been separated by the officials.
Once described as the worst sporting team in Australia, well, they've sent the critics away and have captured the National Basketball League Grand Final in 2003.
Get off. And Gaze and Carter go down very hard. With Carter staring down at Gaze. Shane Heal pushes Carter, and this is a powerful start.
With the first pick in the 2005 NBA draft, the Milwaukee Bucks select Andrew Bogut from Australia and the University of Utah.
Perth Wildcats, 2015-2016 NBL champions.
Simmons from Australia. At various points in his career, he's been compared in terms of skills to a LeBron James type of player doing that 6'10". Now goes on to Simmons as he makes his way to greet Adam Silver.
Thanks for hitting the download button on another episode of Australia's longest running basketball podcast, Aussie Hoopla. As always, you're listening to the host of Aussie Hoopla, Dan Boyce, and before I jump into things, I've got to give a shout out to the team at dunk.com.au. They've been producing custom-made basketball uniforms for more than 15 years. They're a local operation based up there in Brisbane, but the best thing about them is if you put an order through for a new set of uniforms, they'll have it on your doorstep within 3 weeks. They've got plenty of design ideas and you can check them all out on Instagram. Type in @DunkUniforms. And if you order your next set of jerseys through dunk.com.au, obviously you'll be supporting those that support Aussie Hoopla. And without that, there is absolutely no way we'd be able to continue doing what we're doing with all the costs of updating the website, hosting costs, recording equipment, subscriptions to various softwares to make calls to the guys, whatnot. If you do appreciate these podcasts, in fact, there's a couple of ways you can help us out. Obviously, you can give us a shout out or retweet some of our stuff on your social media profiles. It's free to do that. Or if you go to our website, there's plenty of basketball t-shirts there, some cool designs. And if you buy any of those, that puts around $5 or so into our bank account each time. So that's really helpful as well. And lastly, if you've got a business and you feel that the hundreds and thousands of people who visit Aussie Hoopla's website each year and the tens of thousands of people who listen to this podcast would benefit from hearing about your business, well, we'd love to promote you on the show for a small fee. And obviously that'll go a long way to helping us out as well. But now our guest for this episode, and thanks to the team at dunk.com.au for making this happen, is our newly appointed head coach of the Australian Boomers, Adam Caporn. Capes, thanks for joining us on the show.
Thanks for having me, Dan.
Capes, we've had you on the show before, and obviously talked about all the exciting things you're doing over there in the G League, and now you're in the NBA with Washington Wizards. But I'm assuming getting the call that you're now number one when it comes to coaching the elite of Australian basketball, that must be a bit of a highlight. Tell me about how you were told, and yeah, I guess any thoughts, feelings that came out of it.
Yeah, you're right. It's a dream come true. There's no doubt about that. Very special moment. Very appreciative. Thankful for the opportunity. That's for sure. You know, the NBA, you're on the move a lot. It's a pretty heavy schedule. So we were in Detroit, sort of the night before it came out is when I found out. It was very late, did the interview with Olgun and spoke to BA and, you know, one of my recollections, which I hope doesn't sound too cheesy, is when I was told, I was definitely at a moment where I couldn't talk, and just a lot of like grassroots basketball memories, to be honest, popped in my head initially, and then just my appreciation for the way the sport and Basketball Australia and the Boomers have changed my life. That it's like just almost in disbelief at that moment. But very thankful, like I said, and since that moment, to be honest, it's been getting on with the job, getting to work.
It was interesting that a while back there was a bit of conversation between Andrew Gaze and his counterpart on SEN talking about how they thought that you'd already had the job. Obviously, rumours back at the time and things like that. But there was a whole lot of scuttlebutt during this process. It was such a long one and so many names attached to it. Australian names, NBA names. Quinn Snyder was one that was there for a while. Obviously, coach of the Atlanta Hawks with Dyson Daniels. There was so much to this going on, I guess, through that time period. What can you tell us about what was going on?
Well, it's such a prestigious position, not only to Australians, but I really do. I'm thankful for how the impact Australian basketball has had on the world and how it's represented our country. I think it says a lot, the level of interest this had, and it's such an important position, of course. I'm really thankful that the process was thorough and long, and we had to present and meet in person, and there was a lot to it. But that is what it should be. The experience for me was one that I welcomed. Let's use the word apply. I didn't apply lightly. I really thought it through. Like, I would only apply if I thought I could really do the job well, because it is that important. It's not a coaching job to me. It's a position of it's a leadership position that is critically important and can, represents a nation and can inspire a generation. And there's a lot of people involved that deserve this to be their greatest sporting experience. So it wasn't something I considered lightly. I've got a young family. Once I applied and started thinking about it, my energy for it, my enthusiasm, which was already, of course, very high because of the esteem in which I hold it, but it was on 10, to be honest, and it was a few months, so it's a long time to be on a 10. So I didn't come really with any expectations. I know there's a lot of great coaches in the world that have interest in this job, and my plan really is to be the right leader at the right time and really uphold the values that make Australian teams great.
What can you tell us also about that whole process? Obviously, the job opportunity arises, Goorjian steps down. You've got that time period where you decide whether this is something you want to do or not, as you sort of outlined. And then we know from the media that there's a pretty sizable committee formed. Andrew Bogut's on there, Michael O'Loughlin, Alison Cray, who all have a fair bit of say and weight in all this. Yeah, what was that process like? What was asked of you? And, yeah, how did it go?
Well, I think it went well, considering how it played out.
Considering the outcome?
Yeah, I hope so. But it was very thorough, very impressive people asking really challenging questions and putting you through exercises. And
any examples?
Well, yes. I mean, presenting on situations in games that you would do differently, tactical stuff. And then the big core things like, where are we at? What's the vision for, the next 4-8 years? How do Australian teams win? So you got a chance to present your vision, where there weren't a lot of questions asked in the lead up. A lot of questions were asked, a lot of things challenged as you presented. They're all tactical and philosophical questions that were part of another interview, in-person component. Very thorough, very challenging, and like I said, I welcomed it because that's an exercise that the coach of this team needs to be doing anyway, and I enjoyed it, partly for my own growth, a really good exercise, but I was really energized by it because of my passion for the Boomers. So I think ultimately the thing you have to be able to capture and understand is that the Boomers' culture is what separates them. And culture's a word that can get thrown around, and it's not the 3 words we're going to put on the wall. It has to be a living, breathing thing for Australian teams. We are not the most talented in the world. We have good talent. What separates us is our spirit and how we go about it. And I think we've done a good job of that, but we need to be more committed than ever because of the way there's been a lot of good impact of the way the basketball community has spread throughout the world, but there's challenges to it, and maintaining, establishing, reinvigorating what we're about is critical for us to achieve what we need to achieve.
And not that I put much weight in the comments online by armchair coaches and those type of experts there, but and most of them on any topic are pretty negative for the most part. So we won't give them too much weight. But one that was there semi-frequently that I thought would be interesting to chat about is that the people who do see your appointment as a positive step highlight that Adam Caporn, he's been there, he's got the buy-in from the players. I guess when I saw a few people writing that, it made me, first wonder, like, most people wouldn't have any idea about the inner workings of the team, so how they know that you've got the players on side like you do, I don't know, but I just thought I'd pose that at you and see, like, is that something that is there? Is that something that was a big part of why you got the job? Like, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, good question. I think I don't have great clarity on the interactions of the board and the committee with the playing group. That would obviously be private. So I don't have a great feel for what that was. We did an extensive exit interview process. Of course, I was involved in that as a participant in the last couple of campaigns. The other thing is I have had a key coaching and leadership role within the team for a couple of campaigns, and that's grown and grown. I'm very appreciative to Andre Lamanis and Brian Goorjian for showing that faith in me, but also the other assistants. I got given a lot of opportunity to coach, interact with the players, and I, certainly that would have been part of my interview, that I had the ability to coach them. Now, I didn't always, like any coach, I would have made mistakes and I reflect upon them, and I'm sure there are some players that are excited at my appointment and some that are wondering. And my job now is to connect with everyone and try and bring them together. That'd be the broad strokes of what I understand it to be. And like I said, the role really means that I got to connect with everyone and get the best out of them.
Well, the success of the Boomers over the last 10 years has really come from leaders like Andre Lamanis and Brian Goorjian, like you've said, who've been at the helm for the majority of that time. When it comes to being a part of those coaching staffs and now being able to take this in any direction that you want, like, what is it that you think that you'll do different?
Yeah, great question. You certainly steal the good, and almost everything that those two guys do is good. But there is, where I think we are at is a potential. You don't know who the playing group is going to be in 2027 in the World Cup. Obviously, we have a broad net, and we'll be watching closely. But one of the things that seems quite possible to me is that we'll have a lot of positional flexibility. Andre is really focused on system, and I would say Coach Goorjian was more focused on situational and game control. Both have their strengths. I will try and use both of those. I do think we need a sort of home-based offensive system that suits this group, and we touched upon that in the last campaign. We didn't quite go far enough. That's not a criticism of Coach Goorjian. We were figuring it out as we go because these things are so fleeting. Now we have some of that information. We can bring those turnovers down and still have a system that moves the ball and moves people around and has guys in different positions. We'll be knocking on the door. And of course, Goorjian's ability to coach the defensive end of the floor is second to none, and we finished second in defense. So maintaining a lot of his principles will be something I will be pursuing for sure. I really enjoyed and believe in Andre Lamanis' approach to having a sort of backbone to the offense. It's a home-based system. I say, like, Coach Goorjian had that as well. That's something I'll probably look to grow and tweak, would be the answer.
And you mentioned the team, I guess, looking at it at the moment, not sure if you view it this way, but in a bit of a transitional phase, I guess, in terms of like you've got some core players there that are stepping up into larger roles. We would expect, barring injury, probably Jock Landau, Josh Giddey, Josh Green, Dyson Daniels, and Dante Exum-Duop-Reef, I guess, to be a part of that team. And then you've got a second tier of guys, I guess, a strong mix of veterans and emerging talent that'll be fighting for those other roles. Paddy Mills, Joe Ingles, then Johnny Furphy, Will Magnay, and Jack McVeigh, all probably vying for those spots. And then, obviously a ton of other players there that could develop in the next few years. It's a long time. Tyrese Proctor comes to mind and a whole range of others. But what are your thoughts on the current composition of the roster and, I guess, balancing that experience with youth?
Yeah, it's going to be a very difficult position to be in. It's part of the gig, so to speak. It's a good problem. We don't know what's going to happen between now and 2027, 2028. It's a lot of time there. What I think is that we have a vast array of talent. We do need to bring young people into the program and expose them to the Boomers, its culture, its style of play, FIBA basketball and its differences, especially now with the way Australian basketball is in the world stage. Guys are going straight to the NBA quite young and playing professional basketball, which I'd include college in the modern day. So I think the next 2 summers there are other competitions, Asia Cup, for example, but having like satellite groups and spending some time with much of the playing group as we can will be critical. And we'll be watching and evaluating everyone. And ultimately, we're picking a team to go win. And the balance of that means that, so you're not picking an all-star team. You're not necessarily picking the 12 most talented players. You're picking a team that fits and works together and supports each other. That's technically, tactically, and personality, to be honest. So, I think it's going to be a very difficult decision. It always has been and will continue to be. But really excited about the team we'll be able to put out on the floor.
As you would have heard me at the start of the show, dunk.com.au are one of the very few Australian basketball uniform manufacturers and designers who make everything here locally. It doesn't come from China or anything like that. It's put together right here in Brisbane, in fact, which means that they can custom design any type of jersey that you want and have it in your mailbox ready to go within 3 weeks. If you check out Dunk Uniforms on Instagram, you can see all their recent designs and then visit dunk.com.au to make your order. They've been in the game for 15 years, so if your team is in need of some fresh threads, this is where you need to go. And of course, it goes without saying that without their support, we wouldn't be able to keep bringing you these interviews with Australian basketball legends. So mention Aussie Hoopla Essentia, check out dunk.com.au and get your team some new jerseys today. Hey everyone, for those who don't know, when I'm not talking hoops on the podcast, I'm part of the marketing team at Multiply Digital. At Multiply, we believe that we're different than every other digital marketing agency out there because we're willing to put our skin in the game and work with you on a revenue share basis. Where other digital agencies will think they've done their job by getting someone to submit a lead through your website, working with brands in revenue share agreements mean we're just as focused on what happens after you get the inquiry as we are before. We offer sales coaching and sales funnel analysis with all of our clients, so not only are you getting leads that are cheaper and more qualified than what they are now, but you've also got a team here to help you simplify your sales funnel and close those deals at a conversion rate higher than you've ever achieved before. If you'd like to find out more, visit multiplydigital.com.au, pop some information through about your business, and we can have a chat about what your goals are and see if we can help you reach those and then some. Is there anywhere that you look at the roster and also, I mean, like you've been a part of the team for, the last few major tournaments. Is there part of the roster, a skill set, a type of player that you feel that we're missing or lacking that you'll need to keep your eyes out for?
Yeah, great. Good question. And definitely studying the potential playing groups and the strengths and potential gaps. I think we really need to bolster our stock, so to speak, of our young bigs. We need some more size coming through. I think there are some really good young kids in that space I'm really excited about. And some of those guys will get better quick. So we'll be casting a wide net, really inclusive, really excited to work with a lot of the young big guys coming through. So that would definitely be an area. and see it as a critical longer-term thing for the Boomers potentially as well. Whether guys make the team in the next campaign or not, it's something that needs to happen. And then you're always looking for more shooting. I mean, it is the thing that can separate teams is if you're putting multiple people out on the floor that aren't strong three-point shooters makes it really difficult. And in FIBA, guys will shrink the floor even more than they will in the NBA across the course of the season. So that'll be critical. Really excited about some possibilities for growing our squad there. And then you're always looking for point guards, so to speak. And I think positional flexibility is a really exciting part of this squad. And so I wouldn't even necessarily use the term point guards, but playmakers or guys you can play off that make good decisions and spark the dominoes for your offense. That would be the three major things. I think a lot of teams would say similar aspects. We will for sure be looking to not only have, we're all hunting the gold medal. That is what we're here for, is to do that. But we're also here to sustain success, and we'll be looking to grow the Boomers program as well.
I'm not going to mention some of the guys that are obviously big question marks. Ben Simmons comes to mind, Kyrie Irving. If they play or they don't play, obviously it won't be until some of the major tournaments, and even then I think there's a lot of things to step over or tick off before that happens. So I'll leave those for everyone else to ask you about. But one guy I did want to bring up is Matisse Thybulle. I guess, we've had Coach Goorjian on the show, and the last Boomers campaign there at Paris, there was a narrative there around him being left off the team. There was a rumor or a narrative online that he was initially made the team, but then left off because of issues within the players themselves that wanted Joe Ingles on the team, so on and so forth. He put to bed all that type of stuff, but I guess there's still this narrative out there that whatever happened in that scenario, the Boomers' relationship with Matisse Thybulle is somewhat fractured, and he might not even be a part of the team's future. Is there, I guess, anything you can do to shed a light on the status of Matisse Thybulle and the Boomers program?
I think the first thing is, I would totally disagree with the notion, as Coach Goorjian did. I don't think it's appropriate to get into how and why those decisions were made. They were brutal decisions, really, really difficult. And I say that with the most consideration for Matisse. That's the guy that was hurt the most. And a lot of other great players have been in that situation. We appreciate that people put it out there. They're the guys in the arena, and they give it everything they've got. And Matisse certainly did. He's been a great contributor to the Boomers. We're so lucky to have him in Tokyo in those preparations. I'd love to believe that he's open to coming back to the program. I can't comment specifically on whether certain people are on the team or speculate or anything like that. I'm really not even thinking like that. I'm trying to connect with everyone. Matisse is a great player, a special skill set and a special person, and really jumped into the Australian ethos and appreciated it and is all about it. So I hope we'll see him play for Australia again.
You'll obviously collaborate a lot with Dean Vickerman. He's been named as an associate coach with the team as well. Just wanted to, I guess, get feedback on, is that, do you have say in who that is, or is that something that BA does make the decision on who your satellite coach, I guess is a way to look at it, or associate coach there is with Dean Vickerman, who'll take charge of, I guess, a lot of the workings while you're over in the States or not available with the team. And also, how do you see that relationship between you two as coaches developing?
Definitely got to say it was an easy one because I'm a big fan of Dean and admire his teams and have known him for a long time, and Basketball Australia welcomed the idea of Dean being on the staff. Was a pretty easy one, to be honest. I haven't coached with him before. I love the fact that we both have worked under Andre Lamanis and have coached a lot of the similar players and have talked about a lot of the guys and exchanged a lot of sort of thoughts and coaching ideas over the years. Go way back to World University Games, seeing him there when he was in New Zealand at the time. one of the things I love about Dean's teams is the culture is evident. How they play together, how they compete, the environment they create, and they win. And feel very lucky to have him on staff. Feel very lucky to have a key leadership position. One, because he's earned it and he's a terrific coach, but two, because I know his experience and his skill set is a perfect fit for what we need at the time.
And given your ongoing duties with the Washington Wizards, like, how does this all fit into that? Like, is the Boomers going to be a total separate, siloed sort of project there, or are there areas perhaps where things will overlap between the two roles? What can you tell us about that?
I think the first part to say is how this wouldn't be possible without the Washington Wizards being supportive. It's a great place, great organisation to be a part of, and I've felt an overwhelming support and encouragement for applying and getting the position. Australian basketball really is held in high regard. That's evident. It's not going to be easy, but we're going to hire very well, be super collaborative, and there is overlap. Like you're always trying to grow as a coach, right? You're stealing ideas from every place you are. The head coach of the Wizards, Brian Keefe, and I will talk about Wizards basketball, but I'll remember something we've done with the Boomers and we'll be able to apply it. That's happened already. But we are studying the game throughout the world always. So there is a lot of overlap in that, but you need to apply it differently. It is a different game. It's a different preparation. So you're trying to solve that puzzle at the same time. You don't get these opportunities often, and I'm all in on the Boomers, and the Wizards are fully supportive of that, and I feel very fortunate to be able to do both.
I'm not sure whether the idea of the head coach of the Boomers being someone who is based over in the States is something that the media sort of inflamed, or the people on social media, those armchair coaches, like I sort of said, or if indeed it is a view that was held by Basketball Australia and part of this recruitment process. But what's your thoughts on, I guess, the head coach of the Boomers being someone that's based in Australia versus outside of Australia, or just that whole concept and narrative about it being a thing, not being a thing? And yeah, from your experience, does it have any negatives or positives about it?
I think with how global the game is now and how many Australians are in the NBA, I think it is helpful to have coached in the NBA. It is the biggest, best league in the world. And you're exposed to elite talent, elite coaching, well-resourced, of course. I don't think it's necessary to coach the Boomers. I do think it makes a difference where you live and how accessible and available you are. It's a balancing act, and the balance is not only across the head coach or for the head coach, it's a balancing act across the staff. So I feel very fortunate to have Dean. I think having the NBL represented is absolutely critical. I think a former player is a real asset to a staff. You need diversity of thought, and we need someone that really understands FIBA basketball. It's different. We need multiple coaches that do that and study it. So I don't think I think in the modern day, the Boomers head coach being an NBA coach is more likely and going to happen more often. Don't think it's necessary. Think the balancing act across the staff is what's important.
Thinking about getting your kitchen or bathroom redone, in need of some new cabinets or vanities? Sure, you could track down a cabinet maker online, get them to come out and give you a quote and ultimately put that all together for you. But from my experience, that takes a lot of time and it's fairly costly too. Whereas another idea would be checking out gocabinets.com.au. There you can pop in the dimensions you want and scroll through a whole list of Australian manufacturers that build custom cabinetry all through Australia. By taking just a few simple measurements, you can put the details into their planner, create a 3D version of what you'd like your cabinets in your kitchen or bathroom to look like, and get them cut by an Australian manufacturer near you, cutting out the middleman and saving you hundreds. So save yourself some money, cut out the middleman, and visit Go Cabinets today. Hey everybody, I hope you're enjoying this show. Appreciate all of you who take the time to like, share, comment, or reach out after every episode. The reason we continue producing these podcasts is because basketball in this country has such a rich history, a national league that goes back over 40 years. But when it comes to the stories, interviews, memories, heck, even player photos and footage of games is hard to come by, especially anything before 2010. Our goal is to create a community where the history of basketball in Australia is easily accessible and the history of our league, as told by the players and coaches who were there, is something that even the youngest hoops tragic is able to find on the internet. At AussieHoopla.com, we've created a real community where you can gain access to information on any Australian who's ever played in the NBL. Our Australian basketball player database is at AussieHoopla.com, and you can find a profile there for every player who's ever played in the league, as well as all of their statistics from the NBA, tournaments they played for the Australian Boomers, and their history of playing in the state league competitions all across Australia. If you'd like to be a part of the team and be involved in writing articles, posting social media posts, or even helping with the podcast, we'd love to have you as part of the team. Reach out to us at Aussie Hoopla on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and visit the Aussie Hoopla website, AussieHoopla.com, for everything you need on the history of Australian basketball. You mentioned the Washington Wizards being supportive. No doubt part of that is due to the development that they will benefit from you being out there and able to coach at an elite level like this. But the fan in me has to wonder about whether that also applies to a potential pipeline of players that would come from the Boomers, and I guess the perception that either you would have an advantage on those players to bring them into the NBA, or at the very least a microscope on their abilities that the other teams wouldn't have, I guess. Is any of that in play as well?
I don't think it has any impact on me doing or getting the job. And the secret's out that Australian players are valuable and good. And will I be able to offer some more insights? Yes, they would be overwhelmingly positive, because my affection for Australian players is biased extremely. So, NBA teams are studying players all throughout the world at all times, and no stone is unturned. They're very well resourced. There's a lot at stake. So, like I said, it's no secret. I don't think it's a big thing it certainly didn't come into play into me getting the job, and they'll get very biased answers about all Australians if they ask.
Well, a couple of easy ones to finish off. You get the call, you're told you got the job. Who do you call first after that?
Called my wife. She was asleep because I was in Detroit, and they're back in DC, and the family, they were all sick. I called my brother, which is a really special moment. He was obviously quite sarcastic, downplaying, couldn't believe it. And then his wife actually called me back, and we laughed about how it's not easy to be affectionate towards each other sometimes. But we talked about that, and our sort of
Australian culture right there for you.
And our dad who's passed away coaching. Yeah, it was really fun. And people, I don't think non-Australians wouldn't really get it. But it was a really cool moment, and one I'll sort of certainly cherish and will remember forever. And we talked about our youth plan. We moved out to Baldivis when it was more of a country town than it is now. And, a basketball court's something you can do, and you can do together when you're in the country. So, sort of that part of the journey was something we thought back to and enjoyed.
And I guess anything on the horizon that you're really excited about? Obviously, there's so much to it, and looking at the next Olympics is no doubt a part of it. But yeah, what can you sort of tell us would be the next thing on the calendar when it comes to the program that you're really excited about?
I am broadly very excited about getting back to Australia and getting around the Australian basketball community, and being amongst it. I always feel a great yearning for that. Now, more than ever. So that, and getting a staff together, preparing for some of the events this summer for sure. I'm very excited about that. Getting our schedule down and exactly when our staff will first get together and we'll first get on a practice court with players isn't is not finalised, but when that is, it'll be circled on the calendar, and my enthusiasm for it will be at an all-time high. Really looking forward to getting on the floor with some of the players.
Well, we're excited to see you take the helm, Capes. You know, you've been there for a long time, and I know there was a lot of other perhaps larger names there, like a few NBA head coaches, but was always hoping that you would be able to get the gig and show people, I guess, implementing those styles that have been so successful from both Lemanis and Brian Goorjian over the last few years, and you know, those styles have really delivered some of our best success. So to see you be able to come on board and merge those two together, I'm super excited about it. Can't wait to see it. And yeah, just want to say, I guess, from all the Hoops Tragics listening, wish you nothing but the best, and super excited to see what this new look Boomers team can do on the floor. Best of luck putting it all together, mate, and looking forward to speaking to you again soon.
I appreciate that. Got a lot of love and support, and I'm very appreciative, and thank you for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Aussie Hoopla. I hope you enjoyed the show. No doubt you heard a few shout outs to companies who help us to produce the program, and without them, in all honesty, we wouldn't be able to continue producing these shows like we do. Costs for overseas calls, for interviews, hosting the website and podcasts, it all adds up, and to be honest, there's thousands that we spend each year, and without these guys on board, we wouldn't be able to keep bringing you the interviews that we do. So if you get a chance to support the companies who support Aussie Hoopla, that'll go a long way to helping us continue doing what we do. Alternatively, if you have a product, a service, a business or side hustle that you think the listeners of this show would be interested in, reach out to me at AussieHoopla.com on all social media channels, and perhaps we can promote what you're doing on the show as well. There's more than 25,000 people who listen to our podcast or visit the Aussie Hoopla website each month, which is more than most NBL teams get to games or have as social media followers. It's mostly males between 25 and 55, so it's a great demographic to promote what you're doing. As mentioned earlier, I'm always happy to talk with people about joining the Aussie Hoopla team. We've got a great little group. Some write articles for the site, some edit the articles, plenty post updates on our social media accounts or help with graphic design, and many use what we're doing as a way to get their foot into working with NBL teams. I can proudly say that multiple NBL teams have hired people as part of their marketing team after they honed their craft at AussieHoopla.com, and we're only too happy to help those who are keen to do that get there. Also, don't forget, in our back catalogue, we've got interviews with every big name in Aussie Hoops history. Andrew Bogut, Luke Longley, Andrew Gaze, Matthew Dellavedova, Shane Heal, Leroy Loggins, Ricky Grace, Mark Breakey, Andrew Vlahov, and plenty of others have all joined us to talk about their careers and to give their take on the game today. Check out those past interviews on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or however you listen to your podcasts. Another episode done and dusted. I hope you enjoyed it. Reach out and let me know your thoughts if you get time. And finally, be sure to keep hooping, support the NBL, and continue to listen to Aussie Hoopla.